Mr. Lannon, Workday's only been a company for 18 years, it looks like. Started in '05, financial planning, HR, a lot of companies started then. When did you start incorporating AI into what you do as a company and the consulting you give to others?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, it's been an amazing 18-year ride for the company. And, I think it was interesting for us because we were one of the first companies to move to the cloud. And at the time, that was very new for the type of work that we were doing. And there were a lot of incumbent questions upon us from customers about, is the data secure? Can it be trusted? And so some of those bedrock principles that we founded at the start of the company hold very much true as we've started to make forays into AI over the last number of few years, especially in 2019. We had
So on the timeline, the cloud, I think we all understand now. When did you actually formalize the use of AI into your own company and what you advise to others?
Yeah, I want to follow up with making sure it doesn't predate the data I'm going to give you, but 2018, 2019 was a time when we started developing machine learning-based algorithms to deliver capabilities. That's also when we started working on what would become a lot of the NIST-based AI risk management frameworks to go along with that work. And
you're on the leading edge of it, so that's 3 to 4, maybe 5 years. And the distance we've traveled, that's amazing. So, begs the question, since you're on the leading edge of it, and we generally will always hear about what good comes from it, are there any examples of where, even in your own company or with businesses that have incorporated it, have gotten ahead of their skis and had issues with it?
None of significance, but I think we are so leaning into a prevailing concern with our experience that we could introduce risk, especially in terms of bias and discrimination into the workplace. And so, and I think that's most pronounced for us as we start to evaluate some of these generative AI technologies. One of the things that a lot of our first generation AI was good at was like predicting financial numbers, doing math. Does your payroll add up?
The low-hanging fruit.
The low-hanging fruit. And now we're talking about AI systems that can write business documents, evaluate contracts, really do a lot.
So fair to say we're on the cusp of all the potential that might be good ahead of us, but a lot of the potential issues, which would beg the kind of a general regulatory framework, are just coming to the surface.
I think that is true, and I agree that we're a company that's very accustomed to working in regulated environments with a lot of different compliance regimes, cybersecurity, FedRAMP, many of these things. We're comfortable with that, but what it really hurts when you have a mishmash of different approaches, and having something uniform at a national level and allowing the U.S. to take leadership in this area is really important. A lot of our businesses operate at a global level, and so the more we can have a simplified, smart set of regulations, the more benefit we'll have. And I think those benefits will accrue to all nature of businesses.
Mr. Billingsley, when you take what we just talked about there, and then you relate it to entrepreneurs wanting to capitalize on it. We've seen cryptocurrency being something a little bit amorphous recently in terms of the volatility of it, number one. What is your concern about everything we've discussed here in terms of entrepreneurs who generally are a little less risk averse, plowing into a field where they'd want to build a company when there are so many inherent uncertainties around it?
Thank you for the question. I actually think this is why the conversation around workforce is critical. because when we talk about how you're going to use AI, if it's going to be the bedrock of the new economy, that's both in terms of workforce and entrepreneurship. In a lot of ways, some of the best entrepreneurs are people who spent a long time in the field, learning a specific skill, and then they branch out and start their own companies. So when you talk about risk-averse entrepreneurs, yes, some will jump up and start companies without any background, but if we create the correct framework for people to learn and be trained with AI in the workforce, we're actually training up some more responsible people who will have more fluent skills in terms of AI. So when they start perhaps AI-enabled businesses and companies, they can use them more responsibly, they can use them more effectively because they'll have the reference point of what they learned and how they saw it administrated when they were in the workforce.
I look back to the dot-com craze as an analog based upon just technology in general, and look at the number of companies that flamed out in a short period of time back then, and look now how important that has been in terms of woven into almost every aspect. So I think that was a lot less concerning then, but when you do get a hot new technology, entrepreneurs generally not being risk averse, this to me almost looks like it's more full of potential pitfalls than what we would have had back 2 decades ago.
Absolutely. I think that's the inherent nature of how AI should be approached. When you've got a tool, I always use the analogy, two kids, hitting each other with pillows is one thing, but if they ended up having an actual weapon, the amount of times you have to get it wrong is one. So when we think about specifically high growth companies who are going to integrate AI and end up using it for solutions that are critical for, whether it be loan applications and critical decisions, you don't have very many times to get it right before it becomes a serious problem. So, the reference and initial framework is more critical than it's ever been.
Thank you.